with today's Rise Above group coaching session. I'm Noel Bagwell, your guide on this journey towards cultivating a resilient mindset. And today we're diving into the core of what makes leaders and businesses not just survive, but thrive in the face of adversity. Let me actually change my setup a little bit here. There we go. The resilient mindset is a transformative approach to leadership and legal strategy. It transforms you from, being stuck and feeling like you may have the weight of the world on your shoulders, or you've been hit by this really big setback in your life, whether it's a personal or professional setback. And, just like I don't know, it is the antidote to the victim mentality, right? Whatever you feel oppressed by, whatever you feel has beaten you down or um, made it so that you have to fight against unfair odds. Um, that, like all of that way of thinking is the antithesis of the resilient mindset, right? So the resilient mindset will transform your results from feeling like you can't because to you can because. And it empowers you in that way to navigate challenges with confidence and foresight. I don't want to be too punny, but it allows you to take a big leap forward in your life, and so that's an appropriate topic for us to talk about on today, Leap Day, February 29th, 2024. February 29th is a really exciting day, not just because it only comes around every 4 years. I mean, that's kind of a cool thing, but because it is the official publication date, this year at least, of Lead Again, A Modern Guide to Resilience. So I've kind of been keeping this, resilient mindset topic in my back pocket for the last month or month and a half, since we've been doing the Rise Above group coaching sessions. I'm looking at the Rise Above group coaching event on LinkedIn right now, and since we are live, I guess I should dive in and just see if anyone is joining me live, and see if we have people who are signed up. If you are live on LinkedIn and you want to participate, if you want to um, send a question in for it to be answered, you can just make a comment there. You just go to the LinkedIn event and click join, and then jump in there and put your comment in the little chat bar. If you're joining from Instagram, Facebook, X, or YouTube, I think we also can just take your comments and look at them. There's like a stream right here on the right of comments that I can look at, and they do pop in, and I can see people submitting their comments. So they come through, and I do want to answer them. And I just want to, make sure that everybody's nice and comfy as we dive into our session today. It's going to be, I think, informative and exciting. So we'll put a little music on in the background, and we can just dive right in. So let's start at the foundation. This is we're leaping forward. We're leaping ahead with resilience here on this Leap Day, on the official publication date of Lead Again. I'm really, really excited to talk about this topic with you. And for more information and this kind of thing on a more regular basis, you can follow me on LinkedIn. But let's hide these and get a little more focused and intimate with this topic. So let's start at the foundation. A resilient mindset is not about just avoiding failure. That is perfectionism. That's not resilience. Perfectionism is actually extremely fragile. It's a hallmark of deep insecurity. If you are a perfectionist, you are driven by the fear that you will be less than perfect, that you will be somehow less valuable because you are not perfect. I get that. I get that because if a lot of the love that you've received in your life has been transactional, then you feel the need to show up with a lot of value in your relationships. Let me unpack that a little bit. If you have felt like if you have a parent for example, that always feels the need to balance everything, to make sure that everything is equal, that each of the children they have is treated the same, and everything is fair. If they are really overly concerned with fairness and balancing, if they don't feel like their parents treated them the same as all their siblings, and so there's this constant evaluation of fairness and equality, you start to see that rather than love being a free gift that's given whenever it can be given according to the resources available in the moment, right? You start to see that how much love, or whatever you're interpreting as love, could be money, could be affection, could be attention, could be approval, could be acceptance, whatever, right? You're watching how that is doled out by your parents. And if you see a parent that's really scrutinizing that across a big spectrum, right? Then you start to try to quantify all of that. You do it, and it's subconscious, it's implicit. This is rarely ever talked about in a conscious and like cognitive space way, right? It's very rarely at the forefront of your mind. Instead, this is humming along in the background as a subconscious process, but it is noticed. It is intuitively felt. It's felt more than it's realized in the conscious mind most of the time. And a perfectionist is born in an environment where love is quantifiable, or the proxy for love, the way they experience love or understand love or receive love, is quantifiable and limited. It's a zero sum game. There's only so much out there. There's only so much that can be doled out, and it has to be equal. It has to be provision. So for me to get my portion, for me to get my share, the insecure perfectionist thinks or feels, and may not be a conscious thought process, but subconsciously, the mechanics of this is, for me to get the love that I need, I have to be good enough. I don't want to miss any love. So I have to show up with perfection every time. I have to get 100 on the test, not 99. I have to be an A plus student. I have to do the extracurricular activities. I can't, and it bleeds in, right? Past childhood, it bleeds in to every other relationship that you have, and it bleeds into your work life. I have to put in the overtime. I have to be the best employee. I have to have the best candy on my desk. I have to show up with cookies. I have to show up with whatever, with donuts, right? What on Dexter, the show Dexter on Showtime. It's about a serial killer in Miami who ironically works for the police, and he works basically in the blood spatter analysis portion of the forensics lab, right? And he has kind of a gruesome side life where he hunts other serial killers. He's a serial killer that hunts other serial killers, if you're not familiar. But he's very charming and very likable. And every day, just about, he shows up with donuts. And he says, in one of the sort of narration clips, he says, everybody likes the guy who brings donuts. But there's no actual authentic love going on. He's not doing that because he loves his coworkers and wants to make them happy. It's because he's desperate for their approval. He's desperate to be liked. He's hiding a whole lot of what's going on in his real authentic experience of life behind this thin veneer of likability. And so too with perfectionism, with perfectionists. Perfectionism is a veneer, it's a mask that hides the authentic feeling of never being good enough, never really being worthy of love just because you are who you are. That is extremely fragile. If you never feel like you are good enough, you never feel like you're like deeply worthy of love just because of who you are. If you never feel that way, then how can you love anybody else? how can you be the person who shows up and authentically loves other people without counting the cost? So we see this idea of resilience being tough, being strong, and never making a mistake, right? Being able to just power through anything that life throws at you. This apparent hardness, this idea of resilience as hardness to adversity, is really a form of perfectionism, and it's actually very, very fragile. It's like a knife that is really sharp but really brittle, and that's not that's not real authentic resilience. Actual resilience is about embracing each challenge as a stepping stone to success, realizing that there will be setbacks, there will be slip ups, there will be failures. You are not perfect, and that is okay, because nobody is perfect, and that's not a cop out. It's acceptance of reality. And what you need to do if you want to be really resilient is understand that resilience isn't never getting a dent. It's always being able to either embrace the dents as added character or pop them back out to recover from anything. Real human resilience is about being able to recover from anything. It's not about being impervious to damage. That's superhuman. Nobody is like that, really. And all the people who seem to be like that are fake. That's fake. It's not real. It's not authentic. It's a mask. And the people who try to project that invulnerability, they're fake. They're fake people. They're not real people. Nobody is like, so if you see someone who's like, look at me, and they're flexing on you. I'm impervious. I'm above it all. I'm aloof. I'm perfect. I've got this great Instagram perfect life. Stay away from those people. They're fake. There's nothing real for you to connect to there. There's only a mask, and that mask can be dropped and replaced with another mask. What I want to give you today is a deep understanding that change in your life, for good, for bad, whether desirable, undesirable, healthy, unhealthy, change is constant. It's a constant. And our response to change defines our path forward. So we're going to talk about how to cultivate this actually, authentically, genuinely resilient mindset, not the mindset of perfectionism, not the mindset that's desperate to receive your portion of a love you're not really worthy of, but you actually need. Not that toxic soup, right? What a mess people like that are. And what huge messes they make in other people's lives. Massive. They're extremely damaging people to be around. So if you have perfectionism in your own life, you need to do a lot of introspective work of reaching down and grabbing that by the roots and ripping it out of your life. You need to rip up perfectionism. Your perfectionism, if you are a perfectionist, is your single biggest flaw. And you need to get rid of it out of your life because it is extremely damaging. It's not just damaging to you, meaning that you're always going to be chasing a tiny little sliver of love you don't think you're worthy of, or approval or affection or acceptance or whatever it is in whatever context, right? Not only that, not only will it make you completely incapable of ever being satisfied, which is horribly damaging to you, but it will cause you to perpetuate the pattern that created that trait in you. It'll perpetuate that on your friends, your children, your spouse, every other person who loves you, right? That you are going to continue to damage them in the same way and pass that on. It's like a weed that grows up in your life and it just proliferates and proliferates. So you need to rip that up and burn it. And do not allow perfectionism to take root in your life, right? There are other fragile mindsets, but perfectionism is the one that I see most with the clients and some of the other people that I've encountered just in my own professional journey. and in my personal life as well. And at times I have even, had hallmarks of perfectionism. I don't think I've ever been a perfectionist per se, but I certainly have at past times in my life. I've struggled with like control issues, and perfectionists tend to be very controlling people, right? I've tried to control my environment and a lot of outcomes. I talk about that a bit in the book, and it doesn't ultimately really work, and it always makes other people feel like they're never quite enough, that they're inadequate. And if you are making other people feel like they are inadequate, or they have to earn your love, or that love is in any way, or and when I say love, I don't just mean like romantic love. I'm talking about also like filial love, like the love of a parent to a child, or a brother to another brother, or brother to a sister, whatever, right? That sort of family love. I'm also talking about like general charity, kindness, just the Greek word would be agape love, like broad spectrum love, the love with which God loves humanity, right? Just if you are making other people earn your affection, acceptance, approval, if you're making them earn it, and I don't mean approval of their work product. I mean approval of them as a person, like you affirming their dignity as a human. If you're making other people earn that, you are the problem. You are the problem. Your standards are too high. You are being a perfectionist, at least contextually, and you need to stop it because it's hurting you and it's hurting them. It's a toxic trait. So and I don't believe that there are any toxic people. Ultimately, I think there are toxic behaviors and traits, and when we have greater self awareness, we can spot them in our lives. We can accept accountability. We can hear someone talking about these sorts of things, and it may be if it's making you really uncomfortable and you really don't want to listen to this, you probably need to. Just saying. So, look in the mirror, take a good long look at the ugliness there, and clean it up. Take responsibility for it, because your life won't get better until you do. That's real talk. So, um, I think if you want to build actual resilience, the ability to come back from anything, the ability to actually feel, confident, to know that you are competent, to inspire trust in others, and to be able to deeply trust yourself. To have that resilience, to be able to come back from anything on that foundation of competence, confidence, and trust, you're going to have to be proactive. You can't be reactive. You've got to be proactive. The best way, I heard it said recently, and I'm going to just paraphrase, the best way to know what's going to happen in the future is to create that future for yourself, to create the conditions out of which the future will arise. Now, you can't do that with perfection. You can't do that perfectly, but you can do your part of building the future that you want to have. You can be someone that you want to be around. And if you're really proactive about that, then you're going to start by embracing challenges, as I said before, as opportunities for growth. And you're going to develop a proactive approach to problem solving, not just reacting to your feelings in the moment, or the environment that you're in, or the other people, or whatever. You're not just going to be reactive. You are going to recognize the importance of taking care of yourself, letting other people know where you stand, and in relation to them, and what role you want them to occupy in your own life. That's setting healthy boundaries. You're not going to put up walls. You're not going to put up barriers to healthy communication, and you're not going to artificially limit how your relationships develop and unfold. You're going to let them unfold organically based on who you are and who the other person is. And you're going to be able to do this by not only knowing who you are, but accepting that person, and accepting that you are worthy of love, accepting the other person, accepting that they are worthy of love. Again, contextually, this isn't necessarily romantic love. It could be platonic love, the love of friendship, filial love, the love of family, broad spectrum, like Christian charity, agape love, right? I'm not just talking about romantic love. I'm a love bug. I'm out as a love bug. Right? I love love, not just because I'm a romantic or something like that, but because it's really the only motivation out of which all of our actions ever should arise. If they arise out of fear, then we start to become a weird sort of photo negative shadow version of ourselves, and we're certainly not, um, coming into other relationships, into right relationship with others and with God, and with ourselves, from a strong place. We're coming from a place of fear, of weakness, of insecurity, of less, of like trying to hold on to what we have instead of embracing the bigger things that God has for us in our lives. So, quick poll, and you can sound off in the comments on LinkedIn if you happen to be there. Um, I'm kind of looking over at that, and I'm looking at the chat. I'm not really seeing very much. I think a lot of people watch these coaching sessions on the replay, and that's okay. But whether you're joining live or you're watching on the replay, quick poll. It's a reflection exercise, really, if you want to think about it that way, to identify where we stand in the areas for growth and resilience. I want to know, because this is really about taking the first step towards actionable change. I want to know for you, um, are you a perfectionist? Do you feel like, and it doesn't have to be in all areas of your life. Is there even one area of your life in which you don't feel safe making a mistake? You feel like, oh well, if I screw up there, I could lose that relationship. I could lose that job. And then if I lose my job, I lose my home. I lose my spouse. I lose my child. I lose my whatever, the approval of my parents. If I don't show up perfectly in this particular respect, then it's going to have this cascade effect that's going to ruin my life. So I don't feel safe making a mistake. There are a lot of those kinds of fears that creep in, um, and we don't often realize that they have creeped into our awareness. Or like, again, it's not always up here. It's not cognitive. It's not something that you consciously think about often, or all, certainly not all the time. It's something felt. So the best thing to do is to sit, to take several slow, deep breaths. And if closing your eyes helps you, you can close your eyes. If you want to just kind of keep your gaze steady, you can do that. And you can just sit quietly and ask yourself, and you might go systematically through different areas of your life. My family relationships, are they safe? Can I make a mistake there? What happens when I make a mistake? Who do I think I am when I make a mistake with a family member? Am I still loved? Are they going to cancel me, my relationship with them? Are they going to ghost me? Are they going to exclude me from social functions? Right? Am I going to be the black sheep? How safe is it for you to screw up in your family? And who am I when I believe that these thoughts are true? Because these thoughts might not be true. But who are you when you believe these thoughts are true? What beliefs have me locked in? And again, what feelings, you can substitute feelings for beliefs. What feelings have me locked in to believing this? And then go from family out. What about your friends? Is it safe? And when I say friends, I don't just mean acquaintances. I mean the people who you could call at 2 a.m. to help you change a tire on the highway, right? The people who are there when you need them, the people who you have been there for, and who have been there for you. It's reciprocal. What's that like? Is it safe for you to make a mistake? Is it safe for you to make a mistake at work or at church? How do you know? And church is a tricky one, right? People tell themselves so many lies about their relationship with God and their relationship to their church community. And sometimes those relationships are the same and sometimes they're not. But a lot of people tell themselves a lot of lies. Like, I don't have to ask God for forgiveness because I once prayed a prayer when I was 8 years old or 15 years old or however old you were. I once prayed a prayer and I asked Jesus to come into my heart and forgive me for all of my sins, past, present, and future. And I know that He did. And He died on the cross for me once and for all time. And so all my sins that I ever will commit have already been forgiven. And so I don't really ever need to ask God for forgiveness. I can live my life, and if I make a mistake, that's okay. God loves me anyway. I don't have to repair that relationship. I don't have to take any steps to repair that relationship. I don't have to be the prodigal son that comes home. God will forgive me where He is and where I am, no matter what, and I can do whatever I want. What a lie. What a terrible, destructive, self destructive lie. There's perhaps no greater form of spiritual self harm than the delusion that you don't need to repair your relationships whenever they break, whether it's with God or others. That you are perfect just the way you are. No room for improvement. You're perfect. Can't improve on perfection. I'm a 10. No, honey. No, you are not. You are not. None of us are 10s. None of us are perfect. We're all imperfect and we all make mistakes and we all break our relationships and we all need to fix them. Again, that's the perfectionist mindset. I need to be perfect because what if I'm not? And you might say, I'm not perfect. I'm just forgiven. Cop out. You're not forgiven if you're not contrite. You're not forgiven if you don't repent. You have to repent. That means leave the mistakes behind. Jesus, whenever He was forgiving someone, He always said, go and sin no more. And John the Baptist preached repentance. Repent, because Jesus is coming, right? I see a lot of people really delusional in their spiritual lives, in their faith lives, who think they're forgiven forever, and so they never have to repent, and they never have to be contrite. And this is really based on this deep fear that they don't really know how to fix it with God, and they can't really hear God say, I forgive you. That's the beauty of the confessional, by the way. If you're Catholic, you go to confession, you hear the words of absolution, and you understand the theology of why that's effective. So confession is extremely psychologically healthy. It's very good for you to go and hear the words of absolution from a priest, to seek, God's forgiveness in confession. So it's not popular in the United States. I mean, Catholics are a minority and in many places a persecuted minority. So it's not a popular message that I'm sharing, but I'm here to tell you there is real resilience there to be found. It is a path to deeper spiritual resilience. How's your relationship at work? How with your work? How's your relationship with your boss? Or with your followers? This is largely leadership coaching, right? So you might be a leader that has a boss. You might be a leader that only has people that you're hoping will follow you. If you are in the public eye and you make a mistake, what happens? Does it all crumble? Will all your followers leave you and stop following? Will you not have followers anymore? Will you get canceled? Are you afraid to be authentically yourself because you're afraid you'll be canceled? So who do you think you are really? And who are you when you believe that those thoughts are true? Are you yourself? Are you someone else? Are you wearing a mask? Is that resilient or is that fragile? This little reflection exercise is designed, if you're feeling uncomfortable and you don't like this, good. It's designed to make you uncomfortable, to find areas where you are fragile in your life. And you should continue this exercise on your own. You should spend time with it. It's in discomfort and in struggle that we find where we're weak, and we are able to fix those things. We can work on repairing those things. Imagine a boat. Imagine a very large ship. And this ship is made in a shipyard, a dry dock, on land. And the ship is huge, and on the outside it's impressive. And as you go down, you're looking at the ship and all of its planks, old wooden ship, right? And you're looking at all of its planks. You think, man, that thing solid. There's no way that thing's going to sink, right? But until you put it in the water and you test whether or not the hull of that ship has integrity, and will in fact, whether or not it will in fact take on water, you can't really know. You have to launch that ship, you have to put it in the water and see if it's going to take on water. You have to test, and you have to look at where the holes are, where the leaks are, where the seams don't fit quite right. Everything can look really great on the outside, but are you taking on water inside? Are you slowly sinking from small holes that are just everywhere? The only way to really get stronger is to spend some time accepting that you're not perfect, and that's okay. Finding the imperfections and then addressing them with your attention and with your effort as well. To take responsibility for those imperfections. So, as you do the hard work, I want to give you some tools, for some strategies for how to build greater resilience, because I don't want to just poke holes in your life and say, "Hey, you're not as perfect as you think you are. You suck. You need to go to confession," right? Like I don't want to tell you these things, right? Nobody wants to just make other people uncomfortable. I'm not the kind of person who ever will point out a problem without offering a solution. Well, let's keep it constructive, right? So here are some strategies, some tips, if you will, for developing a more resilient mindset, because you do need to understand that you're not perfect, that perfectionism is toxic and you're not perfect, and that you need to take responsibility for these things. You need to be proactive about doing this. This means not waiting until you have a huge flare up and then spending days, hours, days, weeks agonizing over, oh my God, I made a mistake, and how am I going to fix this for the future and never let it happen again? Like you can do that, but that's just more of the toxic perfectionist crap, right? That's, oh my God, I wasn't perfect. That's freaking out. Being resilient is like, I know I'm not perfect today, but I'm going to show up with my best, with my highest level of resourcefulness. That may not be right at the top of my capacity, but it's going to be, as resourceful as I can be today. And I'm going to also feel into areas of my life as I spend some reflective moments in meditation at the beginning of my day. I'm going to feel into areas where I'm not feeling particularly strong, and where I'm feeling like I need a little more attention and effort to be able to handle stuff that's dynamically going to come at me during my day. Right? You can actually not just pump yourself up for the day, although that's not a bad thing to do, right? But consistently over time doing this it's like taking tar or pitch on the inside of the hull of a ship, the interior of the ship, and like coating it really good, a little bit, one section every day, and before long that thing is covered. It's good, it's waterproof. So embrace challenges, right? That's the first thing. Is you can tell when someone is really fragile when the least little thing upsets them. Um, this kind of came to my attention through in a really cute way. That's why I'm kind of smiling. I'm thinking about my son. He's 5, and last night he he and I were playing Crossy Road Castle together, and he loves it. It's a cooperative platforming game. He can play it on his iPad. I can be on mine, and our characters are trying to climb this tower together. And if he dies, it's okay because I can finish that room, and he'll catch up, and he won't lose a heart. You get 3 hearts. And if I die, it's okay because he can finish the room. It's only you only lose a heart if you both get, you fall on the spikes or whatever, right? You both don't complete the room. You both die. Well, we had 1 heart left because Dad's just learning to play Crossy Road Castle. Liam spent, a while with it. He's played it quite a bit, and he's pretty good, especially for a 5-year-old. And I'm just learning how some of these things work. And we're down to 1 heart, and I died. And he thought that I did it on purpose, or I may have done something that actually killed his little character. I can't remember his little cat, or I can't remember if he had the unicorn or the cat. I don't know. The unihorse, I think is what it's called. I don't know, but he got really upset, and I realized, okay, he melted down. He said, "I'm going to delete Crossy Road Castle. I'm going to wait." And I said, "No, I don't think you should do that." He's like, "Well, I'm going to wait, and in the morning when you're asleep, I'll wake up early and I'll delete Crossy Road." He had this whole plan, how he was never going to play Crossy Road Castle again. We played it this morning. The story ends well, okay? But he melted down. He was very, very fragile. And I think, when the least little thing upsets us, like dying on a video game, something that has 0 consequences in your real life, but it actually like causes you to just totally melt down. You are not in your most resilient state. You're not in your most resourceful state. You're very, very, very fragile. And a lot of the reason for that can have to do with, are your physical needs being met? Liam didn't get a nap yesterday. He slept in really late yesterday morning. He's been going through a growth spurt, so he's had good rest, and he went to bed early last night. So he slept in the morning. He went to bed early in the night. He didn't really need the nap, but he kind of needed a nap, and he didn't get one because he was busy. We were playing. We were doing a lot of other fun things. We went to karate in the afternoon, and then we went to dinner with my dad. Early dinner, and we came home and we kind of chilled out. But from the time we got home and started chilling out, his attitude started to decline because he was just getting more and more tired. If you don't take care of yourself, if you're not tired, if you need a nap, take a nap, right? But if you're tired and you're not eating like well, or whatever your particular thing is, you haven't been to the gym, you haven't done the self-care, you need a massage, whatever it is, however you take care of yourself, you've neglected your meditation, you've neglected your prayer life, right? Whatever those things are, if you are not able to embrace challenges, if you're not able to see them as opportunities for growth, if you just feel triggered all the time and threatened all the time, like the least little thing is frustrating me today. I can't get my email to work. I can't get this to work. I can't get that to work. I've got this nagging, annoying client, or this nagging, annoying boss, or this nagging, annoying coworker, or this nagging, annoying person in my life. And everybody is just irritating you all the time. Well, then, you're not really equipped to deal with big challenges. The least little challenge is going to make you crumble. So you need to do the self-care that's required to be able to embrace challenges. So number one is embrace challenges. And if you say, well, I can't embrace challenges, well, then number two is engage in some activities that are going to promote better physical, emotional, and mental well-being. So these two things kind of work together, right? Embrace challenges and do the self-care that allows you to be able to embrace challenges. When you embrace challenges, that's triggers number three. Accept that with a challenge, there's the potential for failure. And because we're not perfectionists, because that's toxic and terrible, right? Failure is not only possible, but at some point inevitable. And that's okay. Because a failure is it's a hypothesis that didn't turn out, right? Like if you take a scientific approach to your life and you think like a scientist about your failures, you think, okay, well, I thought this would happen. I tested that hypothesis and I was surprised by the result. It didn't go to plan, right? Um, for whatever reason, the conditions of the experiment were not ideal to get the outcome that I was hoping to see. And now I can look at the results, I can see what actually did happen, and I can ask myself some really good questions about that. Why didn't things turn out the way I expected? What did you learn about the conditions that are needed to get the desired outcome? What did you learn from your failure? So instead of going, stupid, 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 again, my kid, he hits himself in the head sometimes. He gets really frustrated and he's like, I messed up, I messed up. And I said, don't hit yourself. Or he'll say, oh, I'm so dumb. And I said, you're not dumb. You're brilliant. You're a brilliant child, right? But you're just learning. You can't expect to be perfect. And don't hit yourself and don't speak unkindly to yourself. Practice positive self talk, not negative self talk, right? I have to set limits for him. I want him to be strong. I want him to be resilient. That doesn't mean being macho and it doesn't mean being invulnerable. It means being aware that we are not perfect, but we can recover. We can heal from just about anything. And we can learn from the things that didn't go our way. We can learn from our setbacks. And we can use the learning that we get from every setback to help us grow as a person and take steps towards our goals. We can take one step back and two steps forward. One step back, two steps forward. And that's the way most progress goes. And you might find that tedious. You might say, well, why can't all the steps just be forward steps? Because that's not the way life works. It's messy. Sorry. I don't like it either. I don't like the mess. One of my very first words, according to my parents, was mess. I have never liked things to be messy. I like things to be clean and neat and orderly and predictable and safe, right? I want all of that. Just like you. We all want that. But we all have to have the maturity, the wisdom, the self awareness to know that it's not always like that. And rather than railing against it and demanding that the universe conform itself to your expectations and desires, which is insane, you have to accept the way the world is. If you argue with reality, you will always lose. Always. That's how you can kind of tell who the big losers are in the world, by the way. Because there are winners and losers. Sorry. Not sorry. And the losers are the ones who argue with reality, who refuse to accept it, who spend their lives blaming other people for them not being happy. And usually they're not happy because they hold themselves to an unreasonable standard or they hold other people to an unreasonable standard, and they're perfectionists. And they measure and mete out and quantify love rather than receiving it and giving it as a free, limitless gift. They refuse to forgive. And so they end up with a lot of broken relationships that never get fixed. Instead of accepting responsibility and accountability and then accepting apologies as well, right? Like allowing failure to happen. Allow failure. Let there be failure, but then let there be learning and growth and positive change from that. So learning from failures. What do we got? Embrace challenges. If you can't do that, practice self-care until you can and learn from your failures so that you see every challenge as an opportunity for growth. So these two second points kind of support the first point of embrace challenges. And I think also you need to build a support network. Sometimes it's not enough to do this on your own. It's really helpful to have a coach. really helpful to have a guide, a mentor. Some people seem to benefit from therapy. Like I've tried cognitive behavioral therapy. I'm not saying that it's never been beneficial for me, but the only time that it actually did ever help me was when I engaged the support of a clinical psychologist. And that was mostly to get clarity. Like it was for evaluation purposes. I went voluntarily and asked to be evaluated. And ultimately I was given a clean bill of mental health, but I had, suffered from psychological abuse and gaslighting for so many years that I didn't even know. I thought I had been led to believe, and I had accepted the delusion that something was deeply wrong with me. I really thought something was very wrong with me for a while because that's what everybody in my life, the people who were psychologically abusive, the people in my life had told me. And I had some good friends that I would say to them, I think this is wrong with me. I think this is what's wrong with me. And I had some good friends that were like, I don't know about that, Noel. That doesn't really track with my experience of you, bud. And I'd say, well, I think you're just being nice, or you're just saying that because you're my friend or whatever. But these other people who also say they love me a lot, they tell me that this is what's wrong with me. And, I came to believe that. I think psychology, especially if it's more than just like, not that there's anything wrong with LMFTs or just run of the mill therapists or whatever, but if they're not capable of giving you a diagnosis, like a proper psychological diagnosis, you should take everything they say with a huge grain of salt. Because there were even other like therapists, low level therapy people that did cognitive behavioral therapy that I talked to that were like, oh, yeah, if other people in your life are telling you this, and if a lot of people are telling you that much, probably something to it. And yeah, you probably do have, a personality disorder or this thing or that thing. And it turns out none of that was real and none of that was true. It was just a lot of gaslighting that led to my own self delusion. And I struggled with that and suffered with that for a very long time. Finally, I went to a qualified professional, spent the money and the time, made the investment, and got a real clear insight into the answer to the question: is there anything really wrong with me? The answer was no. You've just suffered a lot. You've been through a lot of traumatic things, and you have you have things that you need to work with. You have literal like challenges that you have to work through in your life, but everybody has those. You have pain, you have hurt and injury, but you can heal through that, and it doesn't amount to a personality disorder or something extreme like that. So get a support network. Maybe it's therapy, maybe, but work with someone who can, before you accept an identity defining diagnosis or something like I have this condition or I have that condition. Before you accept that and internalize that, make it part of how you see yourself, really get authoritative clarity before you do that. That's my advice. Aside from a psychological professional, consider including a coach in your life, someone who can provide you the most valuable thing they provide is a more or less, I won't say objective, but an intersubjective outside view from a perspective that has a degree of detachment, emotional detachment, but they do actually fundamentally care about you and your well-being, not just because they're paid to, but because they're good people. They have good values. So have a coach in your life. Surround yourself with friends who will tell you what they really think, not just what you want to hear, but they'll do it with kindness, with charity, with your best interest in mind. Not just someone who gets off on, being blunt and direct and says, "Well, I'm honest." They wrap up their rudeness and their directness in the cloak of honesty. It might be honest, but honesty without charity is, it's not without merit, but it's not really anywhere near what it ought to be. It still falls far short of kindness and compassion that we ought to treat We ought to treat the people that are actually important to us, our friends. We ought to treat them always with compassion and with kindness. So we never should be honest without also being charitable. And the flip side is true too. You cannot be charitable and dishonest. It's never kind and it's never charitable to lie to people. Even little white lies, even little things that spare their feelings. If someone tells you, or if someone asks you, does this make me look fat? And you go, oh no, you look great. You're a 10, and then you go out and it does make you look fat. I mean, that's not nice, right? Other people are going to talk and eventually I mean, they're going to know, right? It might just be a good idea to say, you know what? I'm sure we can find an outfit that's going to make you feel your best. Right? That's not it. But let's go and work on finding you something that's, I'm here for you. I love you. I care about you. I think you look great. I accept you as you are. I love you. But that outfit maybe is not the one. Like, let's go find a different one. Right? Don't be so attached to the outfit. Be attached to how you feel about yourself and know that I'm here to then I love you and accept you and care about you. So let's go find you something, right? That's a better way to handle that conversation, I think. Um, and then finally, I guess my fifth tip is realize that resilience is not a one and done. It's just like your relationship with God. It's not a one and done. You can't just, you know, roll down the aisle and pray a sinner's prayer and then you're good forever no matter what you do, no matter, like the old extreme example of, well, I prayed the sinner's prayer when I was 8 years old and now I've gone and lived the life of a heathen. I've done things that God hates, that God has said he hates. And now I'm living a life where I don't really have a real relationship with God. I don't really attend church. I, don't forgive other people. I, hold bitterness, anger, and resentment in my heart towards other people. And I am just, generally fallen away. But it's okay because eventually when I die, I'm going to heaven because I prayed a prayer when I was 8 years old. Or I prayed a prayer when I was 8 years old and I killed, 10 people, right, or whatever. Or I did some other, I stole whatever from whomever, right? Is that you make up your own sins and facts, right? But you've broken the Ten Commandments. You've broken Jesus's greatest two commandments, which is love God with all your heart and love your neighbor as yourself. You break those commandments left, right, and center. But it's okay because you prayed a sinner's prayer when you were 8 years old. Give me a break. You're not saved. You're not a Christian. Jesus said, those who love me obey my commandments. You do what you're told by Jesus. You live in accordance with his teachings. And that requires every single day, not one time when you were little or when you were a teenager or when you were in your 20s or in college or whatever. It's not a one and done. Life is not a one and done. You can't fix problems once and forever because life is not static, it's dynamic. Things are changing. Your relationships change. Your relationship to yourself changes. Your relationship with others changes. Your relationship with God changes. And you're either becoming more yourself, becoming a better friend, becoming a better Christian, right? Or you're getting worse. You're living with less authenticity. You have less connection to the other people in your life. You have less connection to God, or you're out of his will for your life. It's more or less. And resilience is not about being perfect. You can't one and done it. Oh, I did this and now I'm perfect forever. It's locked in. That's not the way it works. You can't lock in your perfection forever. And you can't assume that because this person is, they have this role in my life and so we're good no matter what. You have to realize that you are always in a dynamic relationship with other people. And that means your followers as well if you're a leader. If you want to be a really resilient leader, you have to accept that not only can you fail, but you will fail. but you need to cultivate and develop a culture and an attitude between you and each follower and among your followers of resilience that incorporates this notion of failure as an opportunity for growth and learning. That it's safe to fail, it's safe to fall down, and that when that happens, when we see someone who's fallen down, instead of going and kicking them while they're down and piling on all their pain and suffering and saying, "You deserve this. You're a piece of crap. You deserve this. Look at what you did. When you do what you did, you get what you got. Ha ha." And we kick them, right? Instead of that, we say, "Oh my gosh, that could, there, but for the grace of God, go I. That could have been me. I could have fallen down, and I probably will. At some point, that will be me. And in the past, that has been me." You have a little bit of empathy and a lot of compassion. And you go over and you like the Good Samaritan, help the person who's fallen down. You help the person who is suffering. You help the person who's made the mistake. You help the person who has hurt you. You help the person who has hurt you. You love them, you forgive them, because eventually you're going to hurt them. If they're in your life, you're going to hurt them. We those we love, we hurt, and those we love hurt us. And that's just the nature of it. It's the nature of human relationships. It's not easy, but it is simple. The simplicity comes from acceptance. Acceptance of the other person with all of their flaws, with all of their failures, acceptance in love and with forgiveness, and knowing that they don't have to be perfect, and you don't have to be perfect, and nobody can be perfect. And the only one who actually is perfect died for you to be a perfect sacrifice so that you don't have to be perfect. Now, we're called to be perfect in our love, to have perfect love. That's really the only thing that we can do perfectly, is we can love other people perfectly. We don't, or we can, but it requires a kind of ego death. Like it requires like the penultimate move here, like the your final form, right? In this journey of resilience, this, like the top level of that, if you need to know what that looks like, is self-sacrifice. It's a form of martyrdom. It's where you love God more than you love yourself, and then you love every other human on the face of the earth, no matter how terrible they are, more than yourself. And you don't put anybody underneath you in the order of things. Like at any given moment, you're willing to take a bullet for anybody, right? Because you don't count yourself more valuable or more important than anybody else. You're just filled with God's love for everyone. And that includes yourself, by the way, right? You love yourself. Jesus called us, he said, love the Lord your God, your heart with all your heart. Love the Lord your God with all your heart, and love your neighbor as yourself. As yourself. That means if you don't do a good job of loving yourself, if you don't do a good job of caring for yourself, acknowledging your own dignity, your own self-worth, and all of that, you're not going to be very good at doing that towards other people. If you're not good at forgiving yourself for your mistakes, in other words, you're a perfectionist, you're living a fragile life where it's not okay to make mistakes, you can't forgive yourself, you're living trapped in something that happened to you years and years ago, then how are you going to forgive other people? I'm going to close this out here in just a few minutes. We've got about 8 more minutes. I started the live stream early, but I'm gonna just give you some final remarks. If you want to maintain this growth mindset, you just need to realize, and final point on this is, you need to realize that this is an ongoing process, right? It's not one and done. It's lifelong. It does have kind of a penultimate level to it of total self-sacrificial love. But that is a degree of like sainthood and sanctification that I think few people attain in this life. Some do, but Don't hold yourself to that standard. Just do your best, right? Be as resourceful as you can be. There's a story I want to share. It's not my story. And really, I feel a little bit uncomfortable sharing it, but it's necessary here. There was a man that I spoke with who made a mistake 30 years ago. 30 years ago. He called and we talked, and I offered him some coaching, just kind of for free, actually. Didn't He didn't hire me to do this, but it was just necessary in the moment. And he made a mistake that he has not been able to forgive himself for 30 years. Hurt someone that he loved. It cost him a relationship, and it was extremely painful. And there's not a day that goes by that he doesn't think about it with regret and with suffering. He's carried suffering for 30 years, every single day. Loss of relationship. Things could have been different, should have been different. Why did I do that? I'm such a terrible person. And I said, why? I said, do you believe that God wants to forgive you for that? Yes. Do you believe that God can? Yes. Well, have you asked God to forgive you? Yes. So do you think that he forgives you? Yes. But you don't forgive yourself? Nope. Well, why not? I don't deserve that. I don't deserve forgiveness. Like, hold up. Didn't you just say that God forgave you because you asked for his forgiveness and you were genuinely sorry for what you did? You're not just afraid of the consequences, but you're actually suffering with this. It's like, yeah, but you don't think that you're worthy of forgiveness? No. Well, God thinks you're worthy of forgiveness and he forgave you and he loves you and he cares about you. Why can't you let this mistake go? Why can't you let go of this mistake? Because whenever God forgives us, he takes our sin and he casts it as far from himself as the east is from the west. They never meet. He forgets it. He forgives and he forgets. And that's real forgiveness, by the way. If you remember someone's transgression against you, if you remember someone's sin against you, you haven't really forgotten them. And I've heard a lot of that, usually from perfectionists who say, well, I forgive, but I don't forget. You don't really forgive. You're a liar. You're lying to yourself. You're delusional. If you can't forget it, then you're still holding on. You're still trying to protect yourself from someone who has expressed contrition and said they'll never do it again, right? You're not really forgiving them. You're still living in fear. You're still being defensive. You're still holding up the barrier, preventing the relationship from being healed, right? You're still withholding healing, and you're still withholding forgiveness. And just like this guy was, he refused to forgive himself. And I said, who put you above God? I said, how dare you? And he was kind of taken aback, which is the point. I said, how dare you? You think you're better than God? You think you know better than God whether or not you're worthy of forgiveness? How arrogant. What pride, what hubris for you to say you're not worthy of forgiveness. You're taking Jesus' sacrifice on the cross and you're saying, I see what you did there, Jesus. Thanks, but I can't accept that because that's not enough. That's not enough for me to be forgiven because I decide that I'm not worthy of that. I said, who do you think that lie is coming from? You? God? I don't think it's coming from either of those places. I think you've been deceived into believing that you're not worthy of forgiveness and that you're not worthy of love because you made this mistake. And I said, I think you're worthy of love. I think you're worthy of forgiveness. And I think God does too. I think the only person here who doesn't want you forgiven is your enemy. And I don't think you really want to be on that side of this decision. I think you need to choose to forgive yourself. And if you can't do that, then I think you need to find the nearest priest and ask for some help ask to make a confession, ask for spiritual guidance. Like, you need to find a way to release this and to accept the truth that God wants to forgive you because he loves you and you are worthy of love and you are worthy of forgiveness. And we all make mistakes. Resilience and having a resilient mindset is really about embracing challenges, not being eager to go out and make mistakes, but being able to take risks because you know that you are going to make some mistakes, but it's okay. You can take a risk. You don't have to be so risk averse. You don't have to be completely opposed to doing anything risky. It's okay. You can take big risks, big confident risks. Smart, calculated, sure. Yep. Think it through. Don't be reckless. Don't be cavalier with your responsibilities. Absolutely not. I'm not encouraging that. But a smart risk, a challenge where you've really thought it all out, go take those risks. And some of them are not going to pan out. Some of them are going to be spectacular failures. And you are going to learn so much. So go do it. Embrace the challenge. Because either you'll win or you'll learn. And then what happens? You try again. Feeling the safety to fail is the key to resilience. And that starts with knowing that you can forgive yourself for any mistake. God will forgive you for any mistake. Loving yourself, acknowledging your dignity and your worth because of who you are and because God has created you and sees that you are worthy of love, worthy of forgiveness, worthy of your dignity as a person. And that never comes from a transaction, right? It's not a zero-sum game. It's infinite. It's limitless. There's no end to that. That should give you all you need, right? All the reason that you need to be able to embrace challenges, practice reasonable self-care to make sure that you're in the most resourceful possible state, build a support network of people around you who will feed that healthy mindset, learn from your failures as they come, and then keep it going, maintain it constantly. Don't think, okay, one and done. Yep, I did that. Don't rest on your laurels, because then you'll stop doing all the things that are feeding that that ongoing process of greater resilience. If you like this, if you reach the end of this and you find that it's useful, please go by Lead Again. It's available now. Today's the official publication date. Grab a copy of that, and then you can also follow me on LinkedIn. And we have a free community too. Go ahead and follow me on LinkedIn, but you can join the Clarity Guild. We post resources in there, now and then, blog articles, and we've got some online courses and some other things. So you can join the Clarity Guild. That's just a great community to get plugged into. I talk about building a support network. We're doing some of that heavy lifting for you. Join the Clarity Guild. I've got a run, and so I've got to wind this up. I want to end kind of close to on time. But I've got an event coming up March 16th at the Clarksville Montgomery County Public Library. You can come out and get a copy of Lead Again. You can buy one. I'll have them there. I'll be signing them. You can also, if you buy a copy online or something like that, come out March 16th from 1 p.m. to 5 p.m. at the Clarksville Montgomery County Public Library. Come meet me, shake my hand. I think I may be doing a panel discussion. That's up to the people running the event, but I'll definitely be doing a book signing. You can come out, check it out. You can catch this on the replay if you want. It'll be on YouTube, and then you can see any of the past Rise Above group coaching sessions. I haven't fully decided. I haven't made the decision completely. But because there has been such limited interactivity, I don't know if it's the time slot or what. And I don't want to just be like testing all these different formats, because I think that can cause people to feel exhausted and kind of put out. And it also kind of looks like I don't know what I'm doing, which is not true. It's just, I don't really know about live engagement, and I haven't been willing to just throw ads into this and like pay for ads to get people in here, because this is at the end of the day a free resource. I'm not really expecting to make money from it, right? So I'm not going to put advertising dollars into it. This is a free resource, but I do get such low, virtually almost no live engagement that I'm thinking about just turning this into a podcast. So if you think that's a great idea and you're watching this right now, please do send me some feedback. Let me know whether you think this would work better as a podcast. And if there are like segments or elements of this that you think I should add, remove, change, whatever to make it a really engaging podcast, let me know. If I'm too preachy, let me know. I'm open to that feedback. I kind of feel like I probably am a little too preachy. If you'd like it to be shorter and more practical, that's fine. Less philosophical, let me know. Those are just a couple of quick little ideas that I've thought of, and maybe those are coming from my own little insecurities. Who can tell? But thank you for tuning in today. We're going to keep learning. We're going to keep growing together. And whether I continue to do these as group coaching sessions that are open to anybody to join, or I just turn it into a podcast, um, it's been fun so far, and we'll keep this going in some capacity, whether again it's group coaching or a podcast or something. Just keep tuned. The channels will stay the same. I'll still be going live every week. May not be at the same time, and they may or may not be pre-recorded. So just doing the live group coaching every week at 10:30 a.m. when there's not people here live asking me questions kind of makes me think there's a more efficient, more effective way to get this support out there as a free resource. But I am your host, Noel Bagwell, for this Rise Above group coaching session on Leap Day, February 29th, 2024. Thank you for joining. So happy to have you here. Hope you got a lot out of it. And I hope you'll leave me some comments and feedback. And if you have purchased a copy of Lead Again, go leave a review on Amazon. Thank you so much. Have a great day.